Hey, hi, this is Sandeep, and in this tutorial I'm gonna explain you about view criteria in a little bit more detail. So here I have created departments EON view and employees EON view with me, okay, and all these are ready-made view links and associations that came for free with the DB constraints, as I already explained in previous tutorials. Now I will go to departments view and I'll start creating views. I will start creating view criterias. So click here, and after this I'm gonna leave the name as like this. So here right now nothing is there. I'm gonna add item, and it's gonna say department ID. Let's say it's greater than or equal to. If you want static value, if you want, you can say like this. So the runtime query will look like this: the department ID is greater than or equal to 30. So this will be added to the where clause of this query, which you see over here, here's the query, and whatever you define over here, it will be added in the where clause of it. So I was saying department ID greater than or equal to 30. Okay, so this will be added. So now let's say you don't want it in the literal form, you want the input from the user, so you can say here bind variable. Now as you say bind variable, here a plus sign will come, so we'll have to define a new bind variable. Let's say I will add or define one bind variable. I will say department ID, click OK. So here is our query: department ID is greater than or equal to department ID. So now we have created this department ID, one criteria we have created. Okay, suppose we want some more and or conditions over here. So again we can go ahead with this. You just need to go on the group. See what this group is doing. This group encapsulates all the thing inside the braces, all the thing that come beneath this, right? That will be encapsulated in the form of brackets, in the inside brackets. As you see here, right now we have got only this line, and this line is also encapsulated inside braces, right? If you click here on the group and say inside one group there may be many items, so here is one of the item. I'm gonna add one more. Okay, I said add, and this added department name with the and condition. Okay, so by default it adds with the and condition. You can change it if you want, or condition also, right? So let's say I want it with the or condition, and I say department names contains. Okay, and let's say I want to get the input again from the user, so I will say bind variable, and here I will define the bind variable department name. Okay, so I say now I have got these two conditions. Let's have and condition over here. Okay, so right now I have got these two conditions. So this is one item, this is another item, and both of these are ANDed, and then they are encapsulated in the bracket, in the braces, as you can see over here also. Okay, so now we will add one more. Let's say we'll say one more item, add item, and I will say location ID, and is again a bind variable is equal to, and I will define new bind variable location ID. Okay, so here I have defined these three lines, and these are all encapsulated in the bracket. Okay, so now I am ready to execute this. Okay, now let's go ahead and execute. Just remember one thing, here I added these items, right? And in all of this, when I select this, this is optional. When I select this, this validation is again optional, and for this also it's optional. Okay, so what will this optional will do, I will tell you a little bit later. See, right now you need to remember that we define three bind variables: department ID, department name, and location ID, which user will be inputting. And for all these items I have validation as optional. Okay, let's go ahead and just run it. Okay, so here is our department view, and you can see our criteria has been defined here. Shuttle it across and say fine. So now as you say fine, we define the three bind variables. Now it will ask you the value for each one of them. And remember, in all of the three items while defining these bind variables, we selected them as the optional. Validation was optional, right? So what it means that here you have to provide department ID. Let's say I want all the departments greater than or equal to department, and location ID equal to, I will say 1700, and department name contains. Okay, so whatever I want, I can say like S or whatsoever, they should contain this. Now as you click OK, you get the results. It is greater than 20, greater than or equal to 30. Sorry, what I filled, I will have to see it again. I filled 20. Okay, 20 greater than, yes. So it's greater than 20, and its location ID basically is 1700, and this name contains S. There is S here, right? If you go to the other record, this is also greater than 30, this also contains S, this also is 1700. So similarly, we got all the records for which we filled the conditions. Now again, one more time we will run this. Now see, we selected the validation as optional, right? That means that here you can give, all of them are optional to give. Okay, if you don't provide the location ID, if you don't provide the department name, okay, if you don't provide any value for these two bind variables, and if you're providing for this, that's also fine. Okay, let's say I provide 30, so all departments greater than 30 would come, and location ID I did not provide, so it won't put in the where clause this bind variable. That is to say, it won't put the condition of this bind variable in the where clause, because I am not providing the value over here. And similarly for this bind variable also, I am not providing the value, so it is not going to put any clause related to this bind variable in the where clause. So I just provided one, that is 30. Click OK, and just see all the departments greater than 30 have come over here, right? And even if you go over here, if you see the runtime query that just now got generated, it just has from department where department ID is greater than or equal to only one condition for which we supplied only department ID, so only one is present. If we would have supplied two values, if we would have supplied here two values, department ID and location ID, let's say I want 1700, right? Just click OK. So now we have provided two bind variables, and here as you can see in the runtime query, you got department ID greater than or equal to department ID and location ID condition also, but department name condition is not present over here because that was optional and we didn't provide the value, right? So that is basically the significance that I'm trying to explain you here. If you put it as optional, it means that for this item, if you provide the value from the input, that's okay, then it is going to put this whole condition in the where clause, otherwise it won't put. Similarly for this also, I have put it as optional. That means if you are going to provide the value of this bind variable, then it is going to put this whole line under the where clause, otherwise not. And similarly for this also, defined optional. Okay, now there are other options also. Let's say if I say that location ID should be provided in any case, required, I'll select it as required. So what does that mean? That means that now user must enter the location ID, because this line will be appended or will be provided to the where clause. So user is must to enter the location ID, the bind variable value over here. Okay, these two are still as optional, so that means user can ignore, or user can even try not entering these values, not entering the values for these bind variables, but he is bound to enter the value for location ID, otherwise it won't run. So click OK and run it again and see what happens. So here is our department, and we will go to the view criteria, select it and just say fine. Now it will again ask you the value for all of these three. Now remember, this time location ID was a required field and this department ID and department name were optional. So you could provide these two values or you can leave them, but you have to provide this value for sure. See, if you try providing this 20, okay, and if you don't provide this, and this is anyway optional, you provide or you don't provide, nothing matters. So I have provided here. This is also optional, okay, I'm leaving it, I don't want to provide it, that's okay with this. Now location ID, I'm intentionally leaving it black in order to show you what happens. As you click OK, it will say attribute location ID is required. That means you are bound to enter the value for this bind variable. So let's say 1700 and let's say OK. So as you enter this one and this one, so it will apply the where condition for these two. Okay, click OK and you get all the records. And even if you see the runtime query for it, it will just have department ID what we provided and for location ID. So those two items got added over here because we provided the values for those bind variables. Now there is one more option here called as selectively required. Okay, so right now we have this required and these two are, let's make all optional. Okay, now what is this selectively required will do? Okay, first of all you have to understand that you cannot select only one line, only one item as selectively required. Okay, you have to select at least two items or more than two items for selectively required. See, even if you select only one as selectively required, if you click OK, it will say view criteria cannot contain only one item with selectively required usage. You should also provide one more item as selectively required. So we have provided department ID and department name as selectively required. So what does that mean? It means that at least one of them, okay, they are at the same level, they are in this hierarchy. If you see, they are at the same level, these two items. So these two items on the same level, if they are marked as selectively required, then one of them or at least one of them should be provided. If you try to ignore both of them, then it won't run. Okay, at least one of them should be provided, and here this is optional, so you provide it or you don't provide it, doesn't matter. So right now we should provide at least department ID or department name. At least one of them we should provide. You can provide both also, but at least one is needed. So click OK in order to run it, test it, run it. So here is our department. I will apply the criteria, select it, and then say mine. Now again it will ask. So this time we provided this one as optional. So it's my wish. I would like to give, then I'll give. If I don't like to give, I won't give. Okay. But let's say I don't give this. Okay. But in these two, at least one should be provided. Let's say I give this 1700. Okay. I'm giving this. This is optional anyway, so I can give this. Now between these two, any one, at least one or both of them should be provided, otherwise it won't run. See, if you say OK right now without providing any one of them, it will say at least one of the following attributes, department ID and department name, is required, right? So now again if you say fine, you have to provide either this. So let's say I'll provide this time here 40, click OK, and you get all the records which are greater than 40 and which are under this location. Okay, similarly what you could do, you can ignore this 40 and you can just try something out here. It will also work. See, it will give you all the records which have location ID as this, and department name should contain S. See, S is there. Here also S is there. So this is how it goes. Okay, so and you can also go ahead with this and describe both of them. Okay, both of them, if you provide both of the value, then also it will work. So what it will do basically, if you provide this one, if you leave this one, then it will add in the where clause the condition for this bind variable. If you add both of them, if you supply the value for both of the bind variables, then it is going to add in the where clause the items corresponding to both of these bind variables. Okay. So here is what, and you can change, you can anyway change this and to or, and again this and to or, and let's say you have got all these bunch of conditions over here, right? And again you have another group of it. This all items are encapsulated inside the bracket. So if you want to add another group, you have to select this criteria right now here and add another group. So here another group has been added saying or. Okay, you can change it to and also. So and means that this group should satisfy and the conditions for this group should satisfy. Okay, so you can have whatever you want, or also is provided over here. So now you can go ahead and add items in this group also. You can add department ID is equal to or whatsoever, and then you can again add one more item. Department name starts with S. Okay, so right now you have got two groups, right? So what it says, this all will be evaluated and encapsulated inside the bracket, and after that there will be or condition, and these all will be calculated and encapsulated inside these braces, and between these two groups there would be or operator. Here also if you see there is or operator. This whole is the second group, this one, and this whole is the first group, that is this one. Okay, so this is how you can go ahead and create all the complicated kinds of criterias over here. Okay, so this is all about. If you want to delete, you can just say delete this one. Okay, it will delete. If you want to delete this group, you can delete this one. Now you have one more item over here. I explained add group, and I have explained add item. Now there is something called as add criteria. So it's also a kind of a group over here. If you say add criteria, it will actually add the one more criteria with the and. You can change this and or whatever you want, you can select. So right now it says that just follow this one, just evaluate all this, or this criteria has to be evaluated. Now under this criteria again you have groups, items. You can add number of items in this group. You can add more groups under this criteria. The main thing to remember or to pay attention is this all will be evaluated and this all will be evaluated, will be encapsulated inside the braces or this criteria, right? I mean this criteria, see the tree. This criteria says that this all should be true or this criteria, right? If you want, you can say it as and. Now all the conditions that are added inside this criteria. Okay, so now this criteria says that all the conditions in this group should be true and they should be ANDed with the conditions provided over here in this criteria, right? So this is just a kind of a tree. This is just a simple one more criteria that is actually nested inside this. Okay, no more funny business over here. Again, this criteria you can define groups and location IDs and whatsoever you want. So here is what we have now. There can be situations. So see, here you have got the view links also, right? There is a view link called employee department foreign key link, which I've already explained in previous tutorial, which is based on this association. So this association has the source as department ID of department and destination as department ID of employee table. So basically what it does, it actually provides a kind of a view link that is master detail relationship. So if you try to see the accessors in the view link here from the department view object, you can have the access to the employee view, right? So basically the same filter can be applied in the view criteria also. If you want to filter some conditions over the department view, I have already shown you those simple steps. Now if you want to filter the records of the view, and on the same time if you want to connect it to their corresponding employees and then filter it based on their condition also, for example, I want all those departments whose employee exist, under which department employees exist and whose salary is greater than 10,000, then that also can be done. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to the department view. Now here I'll say edit. I'll just remove all these conditions. So let's say I want to find all the departments of location ID 1700 Okay, so I will say location ID. Oh, it's already existing basically, so you can just select it from here. Okay, so I say that I want all the departments which have this location ID, and I want all the departments, basically all the departments which exist in this location ID, and which all such departments have the employees existing inside them, such that their salary is greater than 10,000. Okay, so I define this, that this is the simple where condition. Now I need to say add one more item. Okay, and here it has added. Now I will, here in the drop down, if you come, you have the employees view. This is present over here because in the department view there is accessor whose name is employees view, through which you can get the access to the employees. So you select this employees view. Okay, so it says, now what it says location ID is equal to whatever you provided from the user, and employees exist. Okay, that is to say, for this department, all those departments which are filtered with this location ID, for those employees exist. And in the employees, okay, I want to say salary is greater than or equal to 10,000. Okay, so here also I can define a bind variable, but here I am providing a static value. I will just provide bind variable over here. So it says location ID this, and even if you see the query that has been generated, it says and exist, select one from employee where this salary is greater than, and with this join, with this association, right? So based on the view link, it has created a join over here. So it's checking, basically first filter all those departments which have this location ID, and for those departments create a join from the employees and see whether employees actually exist or not, and if they exist, then they should have salary greater than 10,000. So all such departments are going to be filtered with this condition. Okay, so here I have added it directly as the AND condition. What you could have done, you could have actually just for simplification, you could have created one more add criteria, and inside this also you could have defined employees view exist, and you could have deleted this from over here. You could have deleted all this stuff and could have defined AND criteria, that employees view exist criteria, and then again this salary. So it's basically the same thing, it's just the matter of simplification. Okay, so right now this is the case, and we will go ahead with this, we'll run this, and there is one more button, actually add named criteria. I would like to tell you that in the 11G Oracle JDev 11G ADF 11G version, this is not supported. The button is provided, but this is never supported. This will always be disabled. Okay, so there is nothing to tell about this. All other functionalities I hope I have covered. Now there is one more thing here I forgot to tell you. This is database, in memory, or both. Okay, so this basically tells you that for this view criteria, how is going to the execution mode. That is, when it is going to execute this view criteria, it is going to hit the DB, or I mean, what is the view criteria? View criteria is basically some rows which are filtered, right? These all things have to be appended to the where clause, and then it has to be executed. The query has to be executed after this where clause. So right now it is database. It says append the query, append this where clause to the main query, and then fetch the data from the DB. If I say in memory, then what it will do, it will just try to generate the where clause, okay, and then it will append it in the main query, and then it won't hit the database. Whatever the row set is already present in the memory, it will just filter those based on the where clause what has been generated. If I say both, it means that it will hit the database also, and it will process the in-memory filtration also. That is to say, suppose you have database 4 rows are existing, and for that in the department 4 rows are existing, and you got the row set for the department, and you created some rows but you have not yet committed it to the database. Then if you have here both selected, then what it will do, it will append this where clause to the main query, of the view, and then it will try to filter the situation, filter the rows out of the database rows and the rows in the memory which you have not yet committed. Okay, so this is how this functionality works. So let's just select database, because right now I want to hit database each and every time. Oh, it says that it cannot contain one item selectively required, so I will just select it as optional. This is also optional. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Here is our department view, and I will apply the criteria from here. Fine. Now it will ask you about location ID. I want to say 1700. If I click OK, now it will show me all the departments of this location ID which have their employees existing. That is to say, in the employees table there would be employees under this, and they will have, I mean, some of them, or at least one of them, will be having salary greater than 10,000. You can scroll through it, so only these departments are there. So this is how a view criteria works, and there are some more functionalities that I'll be covering in the next tutorial for view criterias. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.